Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, Patsun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/relationship advice, where OP's girlfriend went to a music festival for work, apparently. Well, we know where this is going, so let's begin. Am I going crazy, or did my fiancé cheat on me during Stampede? Posted by Reddit user ThrowRA Impossible.
So this happened during the Calgary Stampede, a country music citywide fest with rodeos and concerts. I was unable to attend this year as I was visiting family in South America. My fiancée joined me on this trip to visit my family but had to return early as her workplace highly encourages networking during Stampede. She works in O&G, so this is a great time of year to network with current and potential clients. I had no qualms about her going without me as we've been together since university and are due to get married next spring. However, I was a bit unnerved when I got a bunch of drunken texts from her on the first day. Since this is her first time going for work, I wasn't really expecting her to get drunk or rowdy given that her company is pretty formal, way more formal than the tech company I work for. These texts were sent at like 12 midnight, so I was like, hey, slow down or you will regret it, which apparently annoyed her, and she didn't really text me until she got back home at 7 p.m. NBD right. Well, the second day was even worse. She kept updating her Snap stories with just shot after shot and was always surrounded by a bunch of dudes. Apparently, her firm was showing around a bunch of Brits who were quite rowdy, which is why the second day devolved into even more drinking. The guys were very clearly flirting with her and were even a bit handsy. They kept touching her and pulling her into hugs. So I was not very pleased. That night she messaged me at 11 p.m. saying that she had only just got home. Now it's day 3 and I am pissed. My future bride-to-be has been getting plastered hanging around a bunch of dudes using work as a flimsy excuse. It also doesn't help that her outfits consisted of short skirts or sundresses to fit in the country theme. So I tell her about my feelings and that her not going, or at the very least not drinking on the third day, would really help assuage my fears and jealousy. She says fine and I'm cool with it, chalking it off to corporate pressure and anxiety for her odd behavior. My fiancé never drinks. Even in uni she was always the mama bear and took care of the drunkies instead of getting trashed herself. Now everything is fine, right? Nope, not in the slightest. So one of my good friends works for a rival firm in the same industry and was coincidentally attending the same industry event as she was, and I asked him to go say hi to the wife and take a selfie surprising her. He comes back with a video of her and him taking these massive tequila shots. Of course, she's around those Brits and one of them has his hand right on the small of her back. In the video, you can clearly hear the British guy saying, "Whoa, knock them back," whilst looking appreciatively at her boobs. Of course, she's wearing the flimsiest outfit today out of all 3 days. Not even sure how that's allowed, to be honest. Usually she's in business formal attire for work events. I say nothing and don't text her that day until she FaceTimes me that evening. She is of course plastered and has a bunch of people over at our place. 2 of them I recognize as females from her workplace, but of course 2 of the Brits are also there. She says that it was their last day, so they are all going to a casino and that her place was right beside the casino. That is true, we are walking distance from the casino, so she invited everyone over to freshen up before going. I'm raging internally but can't get too angry as I don't want to freak her out and exacerbate the situation. That night she messages me at 12 midnight to tell me she's finally home. She skipped the final day and this has been months since, but I cannot shake off the feeling she cheated, especially as I asked her to try on this really sexy piece of lingerie I had bought her a few months prior. She said that she can't find it and made excuses for why there's no point of looking. Not gonna lie, I keep thinking she might have used it that night with one of the Brits. She was always beside the blonde one in both the corporate photos and the Snap or Insta stories she was posting. Am I crazy or am I getting played?
So first of all, Stampede is a terrible name for a music festival. Secondly, OP, I've encountered these type of stories before on this channel over the years, and getting shit-faced drunk when you're supposed to be working, flirting, or getting handsy with supposed clients and inviting random strangers into your own home is a massive red flag. But until you actually have solid proof, it's hard to say definitively if she did or she did not. Ask her straight out. You should know her well enough to know if she's lying. Make your decision after. And now for today's second story. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that I won't be opening the door for her creepy friend? Posted by Reddit user Negative Astronaut.
My wife, Becky, is planning on traveling abroad to visit her sister and her family in the next few days. She'll be gone for the next 2.5 weeks. Over the past year, my wife has become very good friends with our neighbor, Emily, who lives a few houses down. Long story short, Emily makes me feel uncomfortable, and I think she's trying to make a move on me. At first, I thought she was joking, and I didn't think much of her behavior, but now it only makes me feel uncomfortable. Earlier today, Becky told me that she chatted with Emily and mentioned how she'd be going overseas for a few weeks. She said that Emily offered to come by and drop off some food for us, myself and our 11-year-old daughter, Alice, from time to time. Becky was reluctant to agree, but after Emily insisted, she finally agreed. I was surprised that she'd agree to this without consulting me first, so I told her that it made me uncomfortable. Becky said that Emily means well and it would be rude if we were to refuse now. I said okay, but that she shouldn't be surprised if Alice and I forget to open the door every time Emily comes knocking. Becky said that I was being a jerk to someone offering us kindness. Am I the asshole? Update. Early this morning, I spoke to Becky about my concerns regarding Emily's behavior. She said that Emily doesn't have any ulterior motives and only means well. She also brought up how Emily has her own husband and always tells Becky how great he is. For some more context, Emily is married, but her husband isn't home too much as he works in the military. When I asked if she could tell Emily that we don't need food deliveries, she said it would be awkward to mention it right before her trip and how it would only be once or twice a week. Another thing Becky mentioned that has only increased my uneasiness is that Emily had given her a spare house key just in case of emergencies or anything like that. For those wondering, my wife is leaving a few hours past midnight tonight. Context. For clarification regarding the key, Emily gave my wife her own house key but doesn't have the key to our home. Some more context. For those wondering what Emily does, I can tell you that she does a lot of unnecessary physical contact, like hugging me whenever she sees me, which didn't bother me the first few times but increasingly makes me feel uneasy. Not only that, but she has made very suggestive comments in the past. I would also add that the way she dresses and her body language when she comes to our house seems to be a bit flirtatious. And now for OP's first update. I would like to thank everyone who responded to my first post. I really appreciated your insights and support. I've taken the advice suggested multiple times in the comments and have installed a doorbell camera the day after my wife had left home. Fortunately, nothing had really happened so far, so I didn't really see much of a need for an update until recently. Without further ado, here is the update. For the past few days, things have been pretty quiet. I've been enjoying spending quality time with my daughter, Alice. She attends a summer day camp during my working hours, but we've been spending every evening and the past weekend together watching movies, going on walks, playing video games, etc. My wife, Becky, had planned on teaching Alice how to cook this summer, but since that is yet to occur, I've taken the opportunity. I think Alice is a natural. She picks up instructions quickly and we've been having a lot of fun. The day before yesterday, our neighbor, Emily, came to drop off some food as she had told Becky she would. I did open the door as I decided to just accept once to be polite. But I let her know that she didn't need to worry herself with any other deliveries as my daughter and I would be cooking. She was acting normally, until the very end where she said something along the lines of if there is anything else I can do for you, please let me know. She said it in a very flirtatious tone. I thanked her and told her that I appreciated the gesture but reiterated that we would be able to manage on our own. She then said, well, if you ever crave anything else, just let me know. Just think of it as a substitute for Becky. This made me feel a bit uncomfortable, mainly because of the tone she said it in. The next morning, Alice and I were rushing to get to camp and work. Emily popped out from nowhere and started telling me how her driveway was being resurfaced, and she needed somewhere to put her car for the next few days. She asked if she could place it on our driveway, and I agreed as Alice and I were in a rush, and because she dropped off food the previous night. As I was driving away, I was mentally kicking myself, as now she'd have a reason to hang around our house. Later that day, I was home doing some chores in our garage when Emily pulled up in her car, mentioning again how her driveway was being resurfaced. I could see that it was indeed the case. We had a bit of small talk, but at some point, she went into a tirade about her husband. She shared how she sometimes felt unappreciated by him sometimes and how they don't get to spend time together. I didn't say too much during this, only that I felt sorry she felt that way. I glanced at my phone and then pretended that Alice was texting me to come pick her up. It was close enough to her time anyway. I said goodbye and locked up my house. Yesterday evening was largely uneventful, and I'm looking forward to spending some more time with my kid. Short update. I wanted to give a quick update on what's been happening since my last post. Becky will be back in a few days, and I didn't want to disrupt her trip or make her worry, so I've spared her most of the Emily details until she arrives. From speaking with Becky, however, I have learned that her sister does not like Emily at all. Becky told me that she was pretty upset about the arrangement and that she thinks Becky is overly trusting. Aside from that, things have been largely quiet this week. Emily's driveway has been completed, so she has taken her car back. I haven't seen much of her since then. And now for OP's final update. Hey everyone, it's been a pretty wild 24 hours. I'll give a quick recap of what's been happening. Since Becky was coming home last night, Alice and I spent most of the day tidying up. In the late afternoon, I decided to mow our lawn as it was about time to do so. In the past, I have occasionally mowed Emily's lawn, shoveled her driveway, etc. I do this because her husband has done this for us before, so I've always thought that this was just paying them back. Becky has also asked me to do this a few times in the past. However, because of what's been going on, I figured it would not be a good idea, and I purposely mowed our lawn when her car was away so that I could return to my house discreetly. After putting away our mower, I saw Emily's car pull into her driveway. Just as I was about to go inside, she called out to me. She asked when Becky would be back. I told her that Becky's flight was scheduled to arrive tonight and she seemed happy about that. It was a humid day and I was sweating a bit. She mentioned that I looked hot, may not have meant it that way, but with her, I never know, and suggested that Alice and I should drop by for drinks. I thanked her for the offer but explained that I couldn't, and the conversation mostly ended there. Becky arrived home last night, a few hours after midnight, and was very exhausted from her flight. After I brought her some food, we were only able to talk a bit about her trip before she went to bed. I planned on discussing Emily and showing her the video the next day once she had rested. But she was still asleep in the morning, and I had to run errands. This is where things got complicated. After finishing my errands, I went home to spend time with Becky and tell her about the video. When I got home, Alice had already gone out with her friends, so it was just Becky and me. Becky seemed upset, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me that after waking up, she received a text from Emily welcoming her back and inviting her over. Becky agreed and went to Emily's house. She noticed that Emily's living room was messier than usual, but what bothered her more was a pair of men's exercise shorts on the sofa. They looked identical to a pair I had. I say it because those shorts went missing about a month ago. There was also what Becky thought was a condom wrapper on the floor next to it. During their conversation, Emily talked a lot about how kind I've been to her and how much we talked while Becky was away. Emily even suggested that Becky should have extended her stay at her sister's so she could continue looking after Alice and me. At that point, Becky excused herself and went home. She mentioned that she felt overwhelmed and almost sick. She told me that she came home panicking about what Emily might have meant, so she spoke with her sister. Her sister called bullshit on Emily's claims, as everything seemed too conveniently placed, which calmed Becky down a bit. After sharing all this with me, she asked about my contact with Emily during her absence. I told her about the food, the car, and the conversation from the previous day. Then I showed her the video. Becky was stunned and said that Emily was blatantly trying to flirt with me. After watching it, she said she felt sick about all her interactions with her. The main issue still bothering us is the shorts. I had an identical pair that went missing. We're unsure if the shorts Becky saw are mine or if Emily bought the same pair for her little stunt. As I mentioned before, Emily has been to our house, so it's not impossible for her to have taken them. However, we lack proof of this. Considering how Emily gave my wife her own house key before she left, it all seems very well thought out. Also, we're increasingly starting to suspect that her husband may be okay with what she's been doing. Becky plans to return the key in the next few days.
And then, we have this comment exchange between OP and a few other Reddit users.
I might be going overboard here, but if all you have is a Ring doorbell camera, I would add more. Your neighbor seems so unhinged. You just never know how far unhinged people will go. This is really scary. Your wife needs to step away from her. I'm actually afraid of your wife's safety. Let's say those shorts are yours. This means she had the balls to come to your home and go through your personal stuff to get it. In her mind, she had to be thinking something wild like, oh, it smells like him, or this will be perfect for when I set him up. Then she had the craziness to set up her home, condoms and all, to make it seem like you two were messing around. She wants your wife out of the picture. Tell your wife she should never go to her home again, especially alone. Super scary. Yes, at this point I am most concerned for my wife and daughter. I'm pretty doubtful that Emily will try anything drastic, and think she'll continue her current strategy and just hope for different results. My wife has also made it clear that she doesn't want to go back to her house. Why do you think the husband agrees with that whole situation? We don't have concrete evidence for this and are currently only assuming. Our thoughts are based on a conversation that I heard him having in the past. The first was during a neighborhood barbecue about 5 months ago, where I did overhear him making a pretty graphic description of Emily to another one of our neighbors. When neighbor started making suggestive comments, he didn't seem to mind at all. To me and my wife at least, it did not seem like an appropriate way to talk about one's spouse to a stranger. That's so weird. If you have a cuck fetish, fine. Find someone who does it with you, even ask you neighbors if you want. But why does it have to include destroying a marriage?
Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.